Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a powerful question. Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to hold on to someone, the faster they pull away, but the moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop proving your worth, they suddenly want you more? That's not coincidence, that's psychology. Today, we're going to expose the avoidance psychology trap, and more importantly, we're going to show you how to step out of it empowered, grounded, and in control of your life. This message is not about manipulation, it's about self-respect, emotional mastery, and reclaiming your power. Chasing creates pressure, not love. Most people believe that if they just try harder, text more, explain more, give more, compromise more, they can finally create closeness. But in avoidant psychology, effort does not create safety. Pressure creates shutdown. When you chase, your intention may be love, reassurance, or connection. But what the avoidant nervous system feels is demand. Every follow-up message, every emotional explanation, every attempt to fix. The distance sends an unspoken signal. Something is required of you right now. And for an avoidant, requirements feel like a threat to freedom. This is why chasing never brings relief. It actually amplifies distance. The more you pursue, the more their system goes into self-protection. They don't pull away because you are unworthy. They pull away because closeness activates discomfort they have not learned to regulate. Here's the hard truth. Love cannot survive under emotional pressure. Desire needs space. Attraction needs choice. Connection only deepens when it feels voluntary, not forced. When you chase, you unintentionally remove choice, and the avoidant responds by creating distance to breathe again. The moment you stop chasing, something powerful shifts. The emotional noise disappears. The urgency fades. And in that silence, the avoidant finally feels calm enough to notice what's missing. You, not the pressure. Not the pursuit, but the presence that once felt safe because it wasn't demanding. This is not about playing games or withholding affection. It's about understanding that true connection is invited, not chased. When you step back, you give the relationship room to exist naturally. And in that space, real desire has the chance to return because it's no longer being pushed. Your absence restores their sense of control. Avoidant individuals are driven by one core emotional need: control over their inner world. Control equals safety. When they feel emotionally responsible for someone else's feelings, their system goes into defense mode. It's not that they don't care, it's that closeness feels like losing control of themselves. When you are always available, always waiting, always adjusting your life around them, it creates an invisible imbalance. They feel needed but not free, and the moment freedom feels threatened, they instinctively pull away to restore their sense of autonomy. But here's where the psychology shifts. The moment you stop chasing, stop checking, stop centering your life around their reactions, your absence changes the power dynamic. Not in a manipulative way, but in a deeply psychological one. Your absence removes emotional dependency from the equation. And suddenly they can breathe. In that space. Something unexpected happens. Their nervous system calms down. Without pressure, without expectations, they regain control. And with control comes clarity. For the first time, they are not reacting to your pursuit. They are responding to your absence. Silence creates contrast. Distance creates awareness. Independence creates curiosity. They begin to wonder, not because you demanded attention, but because you no longer needed it. Your absence forces reflection. It highlights what was stable, what was grounding, and what is now missing. And this is the paradox of avoidant psychology. They can only move toward connection when they feel free. By stepping back, you don't lose power, you reclaim it. You allow them to approach on their own terms, which is the only way an avoidant ever truly chooses connection. Self-respect is more attractive than validation. One of the biggest traps people fall into with an avoidant is believing that love must be earned through effort, patience, or self-sacrifice. So they give more, tolerate more, and explain more, hoping that validation from the avoidant will finally confirm their worth. But the truth is this: validation seeking drains attraction, while self-respect multiplies it. When you constantly look to someone else to affirm your value, your energy shifts. You begin to negotiate your needs, minimize your feelings, and overextend yourself just to maintain connection. An avoidant doesn't experience this as devotion, they experience it as imbalance, and imbalance quietly erodes desire. Self-respect, on the other hand, changes everything. The moment you stop chasing approval and start honoring your own standards, your presence feels different. You are no longer asking to be chosen. You are standing as someone who already chooses themselves. That grounded energy is felt immediately, even if nothing is said. Avoidants are drawn to people who are emotionally solid, not emotionally dependent. When you maintain boundaries, value your time, and refuse to abandon yourself for connection, you become someone who is interesting, safe, and worthy of effort. Not because you demand attention, but because you no longer need it to feel whole. Here's the shift. When you stop seeking validation from them, they begin to feel the absence of yours. They notice the space where reassurance once lived. They feel the difference between being needed and being valued. And for the first time, attraction isn't driven by pressure. It's driven by respect. True power in any relationship comes from this place. Not from convincing someone to see your worth, but from living it so clearly that it no longer needs explanation. Detachment forces them to face their fear of loss. Avoidant individuals spend most of their lives avoiding one thing above all else: emotional consequence. As long as you are present, available, and trying, they feel safe believing that nothing will truly change. There is no urgency, no risk, no real loss, only distance without consequence. But emotional detachment changes the entire equation. When you step back calmly, not with anger, not with threats, not with drama, you introduce reality. Your energy shifts from waiting to living, from reacting to choosing. And that shift creates something the avoidant can no longer ignore: the possibility that you are no longer guaranteed. This is where fear of loss finally emerges, not fear driven by guilt or pressure, but fear driven by awareness. Your absence becomes evidence, evidence that you can move forward, evidence that your life continues, evidence that they may have misjudged your availability. Detachment becomes a mirror. It reflects their behavior without accusation. It shows them what their distance has actually created, and for the first time, they are forced to sit with a feeling they usually run from: the weight of what it would mean if you didn't come back. This is not about punishment, it's about alignment. When you detach, you stop protecting them from the consequences of emotional avoidance. And only then does true reflection become possible, because loss is no longer theoretical, it is real. The real win is not them, it's you. Here is the most important truth of all: the goal was never to make them chase you. The goal was never to trigger regret. The goal was never to be chosen at the cost of yourself. The real victory is reclaiming your own emotional authority. When you stop chasing an avoidant, you end the cycle of self-abandonment. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's availability. You stop living in emotional reaction, and in that moment, something profound happens. You come home to yourself. You begin to make decisions from clarity instead of fear, from standards instead of longing, from strength instead of hope. Whether they step forward or fade away no longer defines you, because your sense of value is no longer outsourced. This is where true power lies. From this place, if they return, it's different because you meet them as an equal, not a pursuer. And if they don't, you still win because you no longer shrink yourself to keep someone comfortable. Stopping the chase doesn't just change the relationship, it changes you, and the strongest position you can ever stand in is this: whole, grounded, self-led, unavailable for anything that costs you your peace.